Hey folks, so recently I saw this video by Press A where he played Banjo Tooie but without Kazooie. Though there were some things that could be optimized, it was a really good video. In the end, he had to use Kazooie a whopping 194 times to beat the game. While watching this, I was wondering, how much of Banjo Tooie can I beat without Banjo? And only Kazooie run. For all of you folks that are smart and have played the game, you would know it's impossible. You could call it using Banjo, but in the final boss, you're forced to use the shooter Kazooie move multiple different times. So now the challenge turns into how much of Banjo Tooie can you beat without Banjo? As for the rules, almost everything Press A didn't use, we can use, and everything he could use, we can't. So this includes the forwards roll, climbing, swimming slow underwater, grip grab, Breagle Blaster, pack whack, taxi pack, snooze pack, shack pack, and the sack pack. That's a lot, and there are some other moves you can call using Banjo, like the shock spring pads. I'll allow the shock spring pads, but what I am calling using Banjo is the use of the flap flip. There's some other things that I would call using Banjo, like in mini games, like in the Dodge 'em Challenge or Canary Mary races, but if you wouldn't call it as such, then that's okay. These are just my rules. Anyway, that's everything. Without further ado, let's begin. Starting off in Spiral Mountain, we can get a single item. This Cheeto page above the shock spring pad, we can easily get the intended way. Heading on to Klungo, his fight is very easy. This challenge is basically the same as how you would normally play it so far. Heading to King Jingling gives us our first Jiggy, and we can head into the Isle of Hags. Immediately we can get this Jinjo and unlock the first level, Mayahem Temple. We can actually get a good bunch of items here, starting with this Jinjo in the water. We're allowed to swim with Kazooie, but not with Banjo, which isn't bad at all. Reaching the top of the temple grants us a Jiggy, and on the way we learn the first person egg aiming. We also learn the Breagle Blaster move, however, like I said earlier, we can't do anything with it because it's Banjo carrying Kazooie around. So without this move, we lose access to Target Sand's slightly sacred Jiggy and his sacred Jiggy. Not a huge loss, however. We can take Mumbo, oh yeah, you can play as him, and summon the Golden Goliath statue to open the two doors and also remove the boulder above the flight pad. We also take it inside Jade's Grove to get the floating Jiggy. The Jinjo above Jam Jar's silo is technically possible to get without a grip grab by just kicking with the statue, but I couldn't get it to work, and I can just come back for it later on anyway. Chief Bloatazan's Priceless Relic Jiggy actually gave me a bit of trouble. What you have to do is sneak with Banjo over to the other side to avoid waking up the caveman. That part's simple. Just jump over to the torch on the side and jump over. The issue is we need to flap flip to get the relic atop the ledge. However, through a bit of trial and error, we can jump onto the torch on the right, and by beak busting right as we get close to the ledge, we can get onto it. This is a Jiggy where I can see people calling it impossible, since you have to move with Banjo when carrying it, but the game does kind of force us into this, so I'll just add it to the maybe counter, and also our normal Jiggy counter. At the end, we'll subtract how many maybe Jiggies we have to our normal counter, so anyone who thinks they shouldn't be allowed will know whether or not it's possible to beat the game. Heading into the prison compound, we run into an issue. One of the Jiggies is across the swamp, and the only way to cross it with the wade boots. However, those are on the ledge that you have to grip grab to get, and to get there, you have to flip flap as well. Unfortunately, this is another Jiggy we can't get right now. However, the one atop the pillars is possible with a few jumps and beak busts. Another easy Jiggy. We can get the one being guarded by the serpent atop the temple in Jade's Grove. If we're able to get on top in the first place, it'd be an easy jump to get it, but unfortunately, we need flip flap and grip grab to get to the serpent in the first place. Transforming into the Stony, we can participate in the Mine Kickball, and that lands us another easy Jiggy. Saving Bonita's farm from the mosquitoes is also another simple Jiggy. A few Jinjos we can get were the one on the bridge, the one atop the kickball stadium, and also the one in the water I mentioned earlier. There's that one in the Jade Grove I already said we couldn't get, and there's also one to be found in Target Sand's Temple, which we also can't do. Overall, we're leaving Mayahem Temple with 6 Jiggies and 3 Jinjos, doing well so far. As we move on, I'm just going to remind you that what you consider using Banjo may be different from me. You can feel free to do the challenge with what rules you decide. I'm completely okay with it. Anyway, with 7 Jiggies on hand, we have enough to unlock the next world, Glitter Gulch Mine. This is probably where I'd cut to learning the new moves before the world, but we have a bit of an issue. Seeing as one of the moves learned in Mayahem Temple is grip grab, it makes sense that they would test the player on if they have the move. Unfortunately, this test is required and there's no way to skip it. Well, other than a bit clip, but let's be real, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. And I don't want to use these insane major glitches in this challenge anyway. So with a heavy heart, we use Banjo once to grip grab on the ledge. It's so sad. Luckily, we can skip having to do that again by unlocking the silo in the plateau. Anyway, now that we are here, we can obtain the fire eggs and also use those fire eggs to unlock the grenade eggs. I also took this chance to get some more health, but it doesn't actually matter that much. So anyway, finally entering Glitter Gulch Mine, we can immediately get the Waterfall Cavern and the Flooded Cave Jiggies. These require no Banjo usage, unless you count jumping out of the water as Banjo. But after I collected the Jiggy, I proved you can get up to the ledge with just a simple grenade egg, so it's alright. We can transform into the detonator and go around blowing things up, like Canary Mary's cell, the UFO's entrance to Witchy World, and also get this Jinjo in the cell. This is probably very obvious, but you can't learn moves when you're the transformation. I don't know why I tried, I just thought it would be easier. The Ordnance Storage Jiggy is the first no-go in the world because it has the Briggle Blaster controls, and we can't have that. We also can't do Canary Mary's races because, well, it's clear who's pushing this thing. Thank God. We can take Mumbo around to throw the Jiggy Boulder into the shredder, and we can also fix the train. Back as the Bear and Bird, we can head into the Power Hut basement and shoot fire eggs to light up the path. It took a few attempts, but I did manage to get the Jiggy, so add that to the counter. The Generator Cavern is also played normally. It doesn't require Banjo in the slightest, so that's another easy Jiggy. Let's talk about the Bill Drill move. It's up on those high ledges. We can get up to the first few, but unfortunately the last ledge is way too high for Kazooie to reach by herself. Luckily we can just go over next to Bill's hut and do a decently difficult jump over to the silo. It took a few attempts, but it works and allows us to use the Bill Drill move. Heading to the train, we have an issue trying to get onto it. We need to climb up this tiny ladder as Banjo, but we can't do that. Luckily whoever designed this train station put this sign to the right of the door. We can jump on that and jump inside the train. This is really good because we need this train to access Grunty Industries later on in the game. Oh yeah, King Cole is still a really easy boss fight. You can use whatever eggs you want, I just use grenade eggs. Another easy Jiggy. The Crusher is simple to get, just enter and beak barge the button to destroy the boulder. After that we can just collect the scattered pieces and collect the Jiggy. Finishing up the Jinjos, we can get this one in the minecart tracks, the one in the toxic cave, the one on top of the blue crystals, and also the one in the cell I mentioned earlier. The last one we can't get until Jolly Roger's Lagoon. The last Jiggy we can get in this world right now is saving Dilberta the rat. Unfortunately, to leave the world, we have to quit the game to avoid climbing out. But once loading back in, we can head to Mayahem Temple to save Dilberta and get the Jiggy. Anyway, that leaves us with 7 Jiggies and 4 Jinjos collected in Glitter Gulch Mine, bringing our counter up to 14. With that amount, we can unlock Witchy World. Beforehand, I did go and save Banjo's fish back in Spiral Mountain. This really only helps with giving us more air underwater, but I'm going to be honest, when will we need this much air? Not sure what the point was, but I guess it's good to have. The move we're given to swim faster we can't use because it involves Banjo paddling. No big loss, however. There's also a Jinjo we can get with the Bill Drill move in the plateau. Now entering Witchy World, God does it not treat us well. This is the world where we learn the split up pad, and certain tasks require the use of the bear and the bird. Sure, we can use Kazooie alone, but not Banjo. Fortunately, we can defeat Mr. Patch in the big top tent for a Jiggy. We can get the Jinjo in the prison cells, along with saving Gobi and whatever the dinosaur's name is, and we can also get the Jinjo on top of the tent. And that's it. I am not joking. We can find all 3 of Moggy's children and return 2 of them, but the third requires a move Banjo learns in Terrydactyland. The Jiggy up on the Dive of Death isn't accessible because we had to climb up there to get it. The biggest loss here is not being able to access Wumba and in turn the transformation. To get to her, we have to use Grip Grab. Not being able to use the van is a huge loss because we can't access almost all of the rides. The Inferno is one of them, and to make it worse, that's where Mumbo is, and we need to use him to power up a few of the rides. That means we can't get the Dodge Jiggy, the Saucer Repel Jiggy, and the Star Spitter Jiggy. We can do most of the Cactus of Strength until the Jiggy spawns atop the attraction that we have to climb up to get. The last 2 Jiggies are inside the inflatable castle that we can't even inflate because we need both Banjo and Kazooie too. That means we can't get both of them. So we're leaving Witchy World with 1 Jiggy and 2 Jinjos. Goodness. Fortunately, 15 is enough to unlock the next world, Jolly Roger Lagoon. Unfortunately, to access the world we need to make it to the cliff top, but to get there we have to split up with Banjo and Kazooie to open up this gate. There's no other way around it, so we have to use Banjo a second time to open it up. We can unlock the ice eggs here and then head into Jolly Roger's Lagoon. I know this isn't about the challenge really, but I adore this world. It's just so charming. Anyway, we can take solo Kazooie to go learn the move Wing Whack, and then get as many doubloons as we can get. Gaining 20 allows us to buy a Jiggy from Pano. The pigs with their pool of water can be cleaned out from Grunty Industries, however there isn't really a point. The Jiggy takes a whole 4 worlds later to finally get, and even then we have to use Banjo to cool the water down. That's the first no-go of the world. Using Mumbo, we can take him to oxygenate the water, so we don't have to worry about the air and can explore the rest of the world. Before that though, we can learn the sub-aqua aiming and take the speed shoes with Kazooie and do a decently difficult jump in Smuggler's Cavern to get the Jiggy. They intend for you to use Kazooie's glide move to get it, but this is way more fun. Oh yeah, we can also get this Jinjo above the water. Finally, heading down to explore Atlantis, we can head into the electric eel layer. In this room, we learn Talon Torpedo, which is a required move to progress the game. Gaining it is not only required, but can also get us a lot of jiggies in Jolly Roger Lagoon. Unfortunately, the ledge Jam Jar put his silo on is way too high up for a grenade egg to get us up, so we have to use Banjo once to get us up and grab onto the ledge. Some may think that since I also have to grip grab to get up there, it counts as 2 Banjo usages, but I'm only counting this as 1. Anyway, now we have access to every other jiggy in the world. Saving crispy bacon is simple, helping the aliens that crash landed is easy, and after that we can get the Jinjos that are linked to Grunty Industries and Glitter Gulch Mine. Exploding the giant fish's teeth allows us to find Jolly Roger's partner and also a Jinjo. When heading to Wumba, we can find the transparent fish that holds a jiggy and Talon Torpedo it to grab it. Transforming into the submarine allows us to play the bomb minigame found in the depths and also fight Lord Wu Fac Fac for 2 jiggies. Heading back to the surface, we can get the jiggy from Jolly for finding his partner. We can get 3 out of the 5 Jinjos here. The 2 we couldn't get are the one found in Captain Blubber's place that we can't reach without a flat flip, and the one in the Seaweed Sanctum, which is also just out of reach. So overall, we're really lucky here. The only 2 jiggies we couldn't get, we are forced to come back for in a normal playthrough. Now our jiggy counter is at 23. Let's freaking go. With 23, we have enough to unlock Terrydactyland. In the Pine Grove, we use the Talon Torpedo to open up the path. This is why we needed that move so badly. On the way, we do have to refight Klungo, but it's just as simple as the first. He turns invisible this time, and it's probably the hardest of the 3, but still, easy. Anyway, now we can learn the clockwork Kazooie eggs. These little guys are huge for the challenge. You see, they can reach high up ledges we can't access as just Kazooie. So with this, let's go on a tiny detour. We can get the Jinjo that's next to the fake one with the clockwork, and also we can get the Jinjo at Spiral Mountain with the Talon Torpedo, though I forgot to record it. Heading back to Mayahem, we can try and get up to the Serpent, but unfortunately the clockwork always hits the grass, not the jiggy. Same thing with the one across the mud swamp. We can't quite reach it. However, we can get the white Jinjo that tormented me at the start of the challenge for a jiggy. Over at Glitter Gulch Mine, we can grab the jiggy behind the waterfall. In Witchy World, we actually have access to so much more. By carefully aligning a clockwork egg shot, we can unlock the teleport pad in front of Wumba's wigwam. With that, we can take the van trap. Hey, wait a second. Technically, Banjo's backpack is always on him, implying Kazooie is in there. So does that mean the transformation is just Banjo? I'm not sure. I'll allow it, just because I've gone this far without thinking about it. But for now, I guess we'll add any jiggy achieved through the transformation of maybe jiggy. So adding up all the ones we've gotten so far that require the transformations, that's only 2. However, we'll see that number raise a lot. Okay, I know not counting it is a stretch, but come on, let me have this one. Anyway, back to Witchy World, the van can unlock the Inferno, which allows us to take Mumbo to turn on the attractions, which allows us to take the Star Spinner Jiggy. Raise that counter to 3. Unfortunately, the one on top of the Inferno is still inaccessible because a clockwork can't reach it, and we can't use Banjo to turn on the Shock Spring Pad. The top of the Cactus of Strength is finally achievable with the clockwork though. Also, this Jinjo near the Cactus of Strength is possible to get to. Jolly Roger Lagoon, we can get the 2 Jinjos we missed. The one in Blubber's place and the one in the Seaweed Sanctum. That's about it for backtracking, so finally, let's head into Terrydactyland. I forgot to mention this here, but we got a jiggy for the orange Jinjo. Yeah, okay, back to the video. So finally entering Terrydactyland, we immediately are open to getting 2 Jinjos. This green one on the cliff requires a clockwork as well as this black one behind the gate. The Rocknut tribe is an interesting jiggy. 5 of them stand stationary across the world and we have to take a clockwork and blow each one up. Having gotten the last one, we get a jiggy. And we can get all 5 of them. One is on this cliff and another's behind a gate. We'll find the rest as we go. A required move is the springy step shoes, which we have to use to get to the quagmire. Unfortunately, Jam Jar's silo is atop the ledge we can't quite reach. Luckily for us, we can just drop down from above and learn the move. Using Talon Torpedo, we can get the Jinjo underwater, and after using Mumbo, we can press the train switch. This isn't that big of a deal, but might as well bring it up, I guess. I don't know. Heading up the mountain, we can stop by the Stomping Plains to get a Jiggy, and also another Jinjo. We can also fight Terry at her nest and defeat her for a Jiggy, and I don't know why there's a Jiggy down here, but we can build Joe to get the Jiggy beneath Terry's nest. That's a lot of Jiggies. From here we can go find Terry's kids, however I just didn't even try for this one. We can find all 4 birds and hatch them, however the last one will always require Banjo to use the new move he learns in this world, Taxi Back, to bring them to Terry. That's the first no-go Jiggy of the world. Jumping down to the waterfall we can get another of the Rocknut tribe, and we can also stop halfway up the mountain to get another of them. The hatch move can be learned by Kazooie. It isn't all that good however, just puzzle solve with the button combination. In the train station room we can find the last of the Rocknut tribe and get their Jiggy. Using the baby T-Rex, we can take it to learn the roar and open up the gate for a Jiggy to add on to our maybe Jiggy counter. Using Mumbo to make Wubmo's Wigwam Giant, we can take the daddy T-Rex to open up the Oogle Boogle Cave and also get a Jinjo. On to the Oogle Boogles, and oh man, this is so annoying. We can warm up all three of them, though the third requires us to use Kazooie solo to jump up without using the grip grab. We can get the food from Witchy World and then kill ourselves to respawn at the entrance of the cave and then feed two of them. But then that last one, we can't feed it with Kazooie solo, so combining the bird and bear, we can try we do, but unfortunately it isn't enough. We can't quite make it up there, so that's another impossible Jiggy, which sucks because we did so much for it. And that's all we can get here. 5 Jiggies and all 5 Jinjos. There are a few I just didn't attempt. Helping Scrotty's family involves using Banjo to carry one of the kids twice. Cleaning Champa's stomach requires using the Breagle Blaster, which we can't do. There's already saving Terry's kids and the Oogle Boogles. And the last Jiggy we can't get until the last world, so that means we're done here for now, leaving with 34 Jiggies in hand. Before heading on to the next world, we can backtrack to Jolly Roger's Lagoon and hatch Tip Tup's egg for an easy Jiggy. Alright, now let's head on to Grunty Industries, but first we have to take the springy step shoes. This is why we needed them, to jump up here on this cliff and move on to the Quagmire. Entering the level, we run into an issue. The train switch is on the other side of this ladder that we cannot climb up. To even access the factory, we need to take the train entrance. I tried to jump past the ladder onto this platform, however I could never really make it. So unfortunately, we have to use Banjo once to climb up the ladder and open up the train station. From there, we can kill ourselves and backtrack to a past train station to ride it into the rest of the level. How does this one go? We can learn the Claw Clamor boots to climb up walls, which is good because it's required to access the final boss. Opening up the front gate is a no-go, mainly because we both need the bird and the bear. One of the goals I wanted to achieve was accessing every level of the factory, and we can in fact do that. Accessing floor 2 is simple, and this is where we can learn a really great move for the challenge, the leg spring. It's like the flat flip, but not only do we jump higher, but we don't have to use Banjo for it. And using this new ability, we can access floor 3, which we otherwise couldn't get to without having to climb up with Banjo. On floor 3, we can get a Jinjo in the boiler area and then take Kazooie to leg spring up into the entrance of floor 4. This floor has the flight pad button, which after pressing allows us to fly outside and access the roof. There we go. That's all the floors. Now all we have to do is collect everything else. We can bring Kazooie over to this window and break it, and then wing whack over to the top of floor 1 and defeat the tin tops to get the Jiggy. On the roof, there's a Jiggy we can get in the top floor with a simple clockwork, and we're able to go around and wash the rabbit's clothes for a new Jiggy to add to the maybe counter. And that's it. I'm not joking. Every other Jiggy requires either Banjo finding a battery to taxi back over to another place, and then because we can't do that, so many other Jiggies we can't get. We can get 4 of the Jinjos here. The only one we can't get is this one outside because we need Banjo to stay on this button as Kazooie climbs up to it. Overall, we do have enough to get to the next world, but I think at this point we may have to do some large backtracking later on. Hailfire Peaks is next. Beforehand, we can get the Jiggy on the funnel of Doom in Witchy World using the leg spring. I would show you this, but I have no clue where my recording of this went, so just know it's a Jiggy we can add to the maybe counter. Anyway, Hailfire Peaks. Honestly, I don't see how this is everyone's favorite. Don't get me wrong, it's fun to go through, but it's also a backtrack haven in my opinion. Anyway, this world does not go so well. We can get the Stony transformation from Mayahem and bring it to the Coliseum kickball for a maybe Jiggy. The Jinjo we can find right outside the Coliseum is also easy to get, just gotta throw myself in lava. The Jiggy inside of the crater is simple and easy as well. One of the gimmicks in Hailfire Peaks is having dragons keep shooting fireballs or ice balls down on you while you traverse the world. You can go destroy them, but I decided to keep them around because maybe their attacks could help me. They in fact did not, but we'll come back to them anyway. The fish in the hot pool we can't access. The move Banjo learns here is the sack pack, which allows him to go into these hot bodies of water or tiny holes in walls. Without being able to get the fish and also the Jinjo behind it, we can't get the Jiggy for feeding Boggy. The train station Jiggy is a story, let me tell you. First I have to fly up to the train switch to avoid having to grip grab. Then I immediately flew up to Gobi even though the train isn't here yet, so I jumped down and called the train over. Then I fly up again to Gobi and finally Beak Bus is back to cool down the engine enough to go to the ice side. Issue is we need to find the ice side train switch, which requires a snowball transformation, so all of these efforts will just be for a maybe Jiggy, but it's a Jiggy nonetheless. So yes, we take the snowball and press down the switch. Then we can go back to the train on the fire side to ride it to the ice side to grab our prize. Issue is, we have to climb up there. Fortunately, we can just shoot a clockwork up there and rush it to finally grab the Jiggy. What a journey. The Jinjo inside Icicle Grotto is easy to get, and unfortunately I somehow didn't have enough notes to get the glide move, so I had to go get some before going all the way back to learn it. The glide move isn't all too amazing, but it's nice to have, and it's also the last move we learn as Kazooie. Helping the Frozen Saberman is impossible. We can warm him up, but he requires us to carry him back to his tent as Banjo, which we can't do. The dead alien can be revived with Mumbo, and then we can go around and get all 3 kids for another easy Jiggy, and also our last in this world. The rest require Banjo at least once. The Coliseum Jiggy requires using Banjo many times just to open gates. The oil rig is impossible simply because the Jiggy spawns in this pipe that we have to use Sack Pack for. The Jiggy from Terrydactyland all the way to Hailfire Peaks sucks, and we can't even get it because we have to use the Snooze Pack move that we learn in Grunty Industries. Defeating Chili Willy and Chili Billy can't be done, which sucks because I really thought we could. We can get up to them, but both volcanoes require the smallest climb ever, but a climb nonetheless. We can get 4 of the 5 Jinjos. I've already brought up the one we can't get and 2 others we can. The other 2 is the one in front of the wind on the icy side, and the last is the one inside Mildred. Rest in peace. Fortunately, we have enough Jiggies to... 45? We're 1 short. Unlucky for us, we have to backtrack to an earlier world and get 1 Jiggy. After some consideration, I decided to go back to Witchy World and use Banjo once to inflate the castle. Why this one, you may ask? Well, it's because now we have access to 2 Jiggies. One for the flying minigame and the other for the running minigame, which are both impossible without Banjo. Now our Jiggy counter is up to 46, which is just enough to access the next world. Finally, we can head to Cloud Cuckoo Land. Fortunately, it's just in the wasteland, so there's no issue getting to it. Though it's important to understand we need 55 Jiggies to move on to Cauldron Keep, so we need at least 9 Jiggies here. We can begin the Cloud Cuckoo Olympics with the high jump, but that's where that Jiggy ends since we need the Sack Pack Banjo learns here. Not going well so far. The golden pot usually requires getting Mumbo to make it rain and create a rainbow so we can walk over to the gold pot, but we can also just press the button and glide over to the pot anyway. Either way works though. From there we can just play the minigame and get the Jiggy. Next up, the trash can, but first let's talk about the vault. Across the level, 4 buttons can be pressed using a clockwork. Upon finding all 4, we can get a Jiggy. The first one I came across was behind the trash can. We just need 3 more now. Now finally entering it, we can get the Jinjo inside and play the Germs minigame to get the Jiggy. We can also get the Jinjo inside the central cavern. 2 switches can be pressed in here, one near the top and the other by the vault. I decided to go get the last one next, which is right by the body of water, but before getting the Jiggy, we kill George. Rest in peace. Anyway, now we can get our prize from inside the vault. In a normal playthrough, Mingy Jongo is randomized on what skull he'll be in. He just so happened to be in the blue skull, which also gives us a Jinjo, but then we can fight him, die 3 times, and then get the Jiggy. Y'all remember Dippy from Terrydactyland? Of course you don't. That was the first time I've said his name in this video, so you have to be lying if you said yes. Anyway, we can talent torpedo the rock and spill the water into Dippy's water hole so we can get a Jiggy from him. Awesome. In Wumba's hut, there's a Jinjo which just so happens to be the last black one, giving us another Jiggy. Taking the bee transformation, we can fly around and destroy the weird eye plants. Defeating the last one gives us another Jiggy. On the very top of the hill is a target we can shoot to open the Zubba nest and play the Zubba shooting minigame for the 54th Jiggy and also the 10th one to add to our maybe counter. Unfortunately, that's the last one we can get. 1 short. The one in the Jello Castle requires Banjo's Shack Pack move. The Cheese Wedge is the last Jinjo of the world for us to get, but the Jiggy is out of reach without Banjo's Sack Pack and the Shack Pack. Canary Mary's race can't be accessed without having done the minecart race in Glitter Gulch Mine. However, even then we can't do it because that's still Banjo steering that thing. Thank God. Then of course there's the Olympics Jiggy we can't get, and that's all. So unfortunately we need to backtrack again. But not just for 1 Jiggy. To access the final boss we need 70. So it's time for the Big Backtrack. So to start, I went to Mayahem Temple for the 2 Jiggies inside of Target Zan's temple. This only requires 1 because Banjo only pulls out the Breagle Blaster a single time. The rest can be done with just shooting eggs. I went to Witchy World next to get the Jiggy atop the Dive of Death. You just have to climb up the ladder with Banjo once and jump for the Jiggy using Talon Drop. Just don't miss like I somehow did. Heading to Terrydactyland, we can finally get the Oogle Boogles Jiggy. You just have to use Banjo once to get up to the ledge. Still in Terrydactyl, we can learn the Taxi Back move. This is worth it because now we can get so many more Jiggies. All it takes is pushing Banjo up next to this corner and jumping to get hit by the enemy and make it up to Jam Jar Silo without having to grip grab. With this, we can bring Terry's last kid up to his nest and get the Jiggy. Moggy's kids in Witchy World are interesting. They're randomized around the world and one just so happened to be in a place which is unlocked by the transformation. You may think I'm going to call this a maybe Jiggy, but I won't, since this child could be in a place easily accessible without the van. I just got unlucky this run. Anyway, we used Banjo once to bring the child over to Moggy and get her Jiggy. I also decided to learn Whack Pack simply for a single moment later. In Hailfire Peaks, I decided to learn the Shack Pack so we can get the fish and the red Jinjo, which gives us a Jiggy in the hot pot. I also used Banjo another time to empty the hot pond into the pig's pool in Jolly Roger's Lagoon to get another Jiggy, and also meaning we've gotten every Jiggy in that world. Anyway, we can feed the fish to Boggy for another Jiggy. The frozen Saberman can be brought to his tent to get a prize, and then in Cloud Cuckoo Land we can climb onto this pole and then use Shack Pack to enter the Big Jello. I decided to go right back to Mayahem after that and accepted that I would have to flat flip twice to get up to the serpent and jump to get his Jiggy. In Hailfire Peaks we used Banjo twice to get up to both the dragons and defeat them both for their Jiggy as well. The oil rig was quite annoying. Getting the snowball there is no problem, and I thought it would just be a simple Shack Pack to get it, but turns out I had to flat flip once to even get it. That's when I remembered Champa from Terrydactyland had a Jiggy for one Briggle Blast remove, so I went back and did that. And now we only need one more. I thought for a bit, and then Glitter Gulch Mine came up. Oh no, Canary Mary. Fitting, isn't it? The last Jiggy I got here is the same press I got on their run. Okay, this one's in Glitter Gulch Mine, and theirs is in Cloud Cuckoo Land, but let me have this, okay? Anyway, a simple race gives us one last Jiggy, and that's also a maybe Jiggy. With all of these in hand, we can head into Cauldron Keep to beat the game. Cauldron Keep, the final world. To start, we can get up to the level really simply. Just use the Claw Climber boots. To open the door, we need to cross the moat. This is where I wanted to use the Pack Whack, but the issue is the Shack Pack also works. Seeing as nowhere in the backtracking we had to use Pack Whack, let's just not count this one. Anyway, we can open the door officially and go fight Klungo for the last and final time. Now that he's off to go make games, we can begin the Tower of Tragedy. This 3-round game show goes against my rules and bites my back. Banjo is clearly the one pressing these buttons, so unfortunately, one Banjo use for each round. With all that out of the way, we can enter the final boss against the Hag 1. Throughout the fight, the Briggle Blaster is brought out 7 times. But with that done, we can officially beat Banjo Tooie. What was the final amount of times we had to use Banjo? 35. But what about maybe Jiggies? We had a total of 12 by the end of the game, so adding that up, if you decide to not count those Jiggies, then it'll take 47 overall. This challenge was a lot of fun. I've always wanted to do a challenge off of a longer game, and this was a nice experiment. And hey, if you like this and want me to do more, tell me in the comments. I just may. Oh, and also one last thing. 35 is Clefairy's Pokedex entry, so keeping up with Pressay's Wooper thing, comment Clefairy. Thank you. Alright, good night folks. Thanks for watching.